Hey everyone, I'm Paul with MadCap Software. This is our second video in our series on single sourcing in MadCap Flare, and we're going to talk about conditions in this video. What are these things? Well, conditions, that's a single sourcing feature that lets you determine, hey, I want this content to be in this output, but I want this content to be in that output, or you want this content to be displayed when the screen is maybe large and different content to display when it's smaller. So that's what we're going to go through. Now, you might be watching and thinking, look, I just want the basic steps. I just want to understand this so I can just go. So in the next section, this video is broken up into many sections because there's a lot to go through with conditions. But I'm going to start with the basic steps, just the main things that you need to know. So if that's all you're interested in, you could just watch that and just be on your merry way. And so I'm just going to cover real quick, show you just what you need to do to make use of conditions right away. But after that, I am then going to go into a lot of other areas of conditions, and the video is going to it'll get more and more advanced as you go on. Now, if you want to know, well, what are these other sections, just go down to the play bar, hover over that because it's broken up into these sections, and you can hover over it and see the title of each one. You can skip ahead, do whatever you want. So we're going to begin by just looking at the quick steps to get going with conditions. Let's start there. All right, so you just want a really, really quick demo on conditions? Here we go. All right, so in this topic, I have a few paragraphs in here, and this paragraph right here says this paragraph is meant for online output. This paragraph is meant for print output. I'm just using these as an example. Separating content by online and print is just one way you could do it. You could do lots of other things, like you could say, I've got a whole bunch of PDFs, and this content is only for this PDF or whatever. It's just by these targets, the outputs. What do you want to be included or excluded? So first thing, step one is you got to create your conditions. So come over here to the project organizer under conditional text. I already have, you get this just kind of out of the gate when you create a new project. Most of these are set up to already have what's called a condition tag set. You open that up. Here's where you're going to create and maintain your conditions. I already have one in here called screen only. So again, the idea here is, I want some content to only be an online output, some others to be in print output. So it says screen only. I can use this for my online only. The screen only name comes with a lot of these templates. I like to change it to online only, just because, the screen, I can look at print output on a screen too. And then color, you can set the color if you want for that. I want to get another condition in here because I also want to separate things out by print only. So I'm going to click this button, and I'm going to type print only in here. And name it whatever I want. It comes with a default color, which I can change. Save. That's step one. Step two, apply the conditions. Come back to my topic in here, and then there are multiple ways to apply conditions depending on what the content is. For a paragraph, so I just want this whole paragraph to be online only, this one to be print only. I could select the paragraph, or I could right-click the paragraph structure bar and select conditions. Or I can just do that and then come up here to home, and then over on the right is this little conditions thing. And I like I set conditions so much that I added this actually up to my quick access toolbar. Just right click on it, and you can see it's added already. If it wasn't, it would be in bold, and I could select that and it would go up top. Anyway, so I'm going to select that, and I go to my condition tag set, and my condition, I say online only, done. And then I come over here, and this time I'll right click the structure bar, conditions, print only. Now, there are these indicators that let you see, I'm going to save, let you see what you've applied. And it's right down here, this little button. Now you can already, if you have your structure bars on, you can already kind of tell because of the color on these. And if you can't remember what the color stands for, just hover over it and it'll tell you that's online only, that's print only. But I can turn on the indicators. It doesn't mean the color is going to show up in the output. It's just for you to let you know, hey, you got some conditioned stuff here. And you can see the entire paragraph is conditioned. So if I add more text, that'll be condition 2. So step 1, create your conditions. Step 2, apply the conditions. Step 3, you're going to associate these conditions with your output, with your target. So I'm going to come over here to online. My online target, open that up, come down to the conditional text tab, and then you see these are my conditions. And right now, you can see this little gray in here. It says include, and I can explicitly say what I want done for this output. Now, this is my online output. So yeah, I want stuff tagged with online only to be included. I can select include. The stuff that's set to print only using that condition, exclude. Save that. And I'll go ahead and start building that output while we go to our other target in here, which is our PDF. And I'll do the same thing, just selecting different options. So on the conditional text, all right, this is PDF. I don't want my online only stuff in here. So I have that set to exclude. It was already, this one was already set. And the print only is set to include. All right, and I can build that. So now I will open up this online output and I'll drag it over here so you can see it. I'll go to that getting started topic and you can see it included this online output paragraph, didn't include the other. And if I go and open up my PDF output, which just finished, drag that over, you're going to see the reverse. Come down here and it's kind of small in here. I can enlarge that. But you can see the print output paragraph is shown, the online one isn't. That's it. That's really, those are the basics. That's what you need to know. So you can do a whole bunch right out of the gate just by knowing those few things. Now, when I went through those quick steps, you saw I just touched on the fact that these conditions were within what's called a condition tag set. So we want to talk just a little bit more about those. So I just have this one file over here under conditional text called default. That's just what it's named. I could rename it if I want. And within that are my 2 conditions that I have. And I can actually click this little thing over here and expand it so you can actually see the conditions that are within it. Do you need another condition tag set? Couldn't you just put all your conditions in this one? Absolutely. It depends on how complex your project is, how many conditions that you have. It's just a way to organize them. So let's say that, so these are just kind of general conditions that I have in here. And so maybe I'll just click that to highlight that text and maybe I'll name it general or basic or something like that. And I'm going to get this little link update dialog because those conditions are associated with different files in here. And so I'm going to say, yeah, update those so that things don't get broken. All right, so I can add another one. I like to right click. I right click on that conditional text folder and select add condition tag set. Maybe I want to create another one to hold all my PDFs. Maybe I plan on creating a whole bunch of those. So I'll just name it PDFs, click add, and it gives me some conditions right out of the gate. These are just basic ones, but you can delete these, you can replace them. And so I'm just going to, let's just say this is PDF 1. In the real world, these would be the names of the PDFs. So, you know, they're more descriptive, but I'm just going to name them these things. And they all have these colors in here associated with each one. You can also put comments next to each one. Maybe you've got a team of writers and some of these conditions are pretty intuitive and maybe others aren't. And so you could click over here and say, this is what we use this condition for. So there, I've created another condition tag set, save it, and now it's added over here. I can expand that, and I can see all of the conditions listed under it. Now, as I go through this video series, I will occasionally go from this simple little project, test project. I'm going to show you my actual project, the big project where all the Flare MadCap software documentation comes from, because it's got a ton of stuff in it. So you'll get to see more real world examples. So let's hop over to that, and I'll show you just what I've done with condition tag sets. So this is my project. And if I open up conditional text here, expand that, I've got a whole bunch of condition tag sets in here. And you can see most of these I created because I've got the same example I just showed you. These are all PDFs in these different condition tag sets, and I just organized them according to different products. And then I do have a general condition tag set, and you can see the stuff that I have in there. There's my online only, print only, server only, local only, so different things for stuff for the future. It's not ready yet. So for example, server only, I create two versions of the online help. One that is just out there on web server that anybody can get to, and I can update it on the fly. But there's also, you can install Flare so that you have local version of the help, and it exists on your computer. And so there's some content that I want only for the server, and some that is more appropriate for local. And so I ended up creating those. And so these are just in these categories that make sense. More PDFs, and then products, general product conditions in here. So one, like for example, Central. All right, Central, just in general, this content is for Central. It might not be for other products. And then Central online only, Central print only. So you just create condition tag sets as it makes sense to you to organize all of the conditions that you're going to be creating. There's no more to it than that. Do what you want. Keep it really simple, put everything in one, or create multiple condition tag sets if it helps you. Now, as you saw, each condition is associated with a color. Let's talk just a little bit more about that. So what else can we say about these colors? Well, just a couple of things. One is, as soon as you create a condition, you're going to get a color. It's just going to pick one for you, but you can just click this, go into pick color. You can choose any color you want. You can click this, the screen color picker, and hover over something. Is it important what color you pick? Well, to the system, no, it really doesn't matter. It's just an indicator for you to know, oh, this is the color for this condition, this one for that. But what I will say, over time, I have noticed that I will pick colors a little bit more systematically than I did at first. I'm going to go back into my big project and show you what I mean. Now I'm going to open up one of these condition tag sets, and you can see the different colors I have in here. Now, what I've noticed over time is, out of all the conditions that I have, some conditions I don't set very often at all, and others I'm setting all the time. The ones that I set most often are online only and print only. And so what I decided to do was make these colors very unique to these conditions, because there's only so many colors and shades to go around. Of course, there are a ton of shades, but colors can look a lot like each other. So if you've got a whole bunch of conditions that are set as shades of green, at first glance, when you're looking at them in the content, you're not exactly sure what condition that is, and you always have to hover over it. Well, because these two I'm using more often than any other, I decided I don't want any other shades of green or red. I just want these to use that, so that when I'm moving through content, just at a glance, I know what condition these are. But with others, there will be different shades. If I open up this one for products, you can see The other thing that I did was I would pick colors and shades unique for each product. Okay, so capture is blue, and then the local only is a little lighter blue, and then this one and this one. So I kind of keep these in the same color group because, again, it makes it easier to identify just by glancing through things, at least what product it's for. And then if I need to know more, I can hover over it. So I do put a little bit of thought into associating colors with conditions, but yeah, don't let it keep you up at night. The best thing I could say is decide what conditions you're using the most and try to make those as unique as possible. What are the things in a Flare project that can be conditioned? All kinds of things, and really in the categories of folders and files and content. So I've got another little topic open up here in my tiny sample project. And you can see, all right, I've got a heading, I've got some paragraphs in here. This could be, another subheading. I'll just do that. I've got some steps, got an image. So various kinds of content. I could put a table in here, and all kinds of things. Any of it can be conditioned. And you already saw that we conditioned paragraphs before by just highlighting the whole paragraph or using the structure bar. So you can put a condition on just about pretty much any structure bar in here, or you can just highlight different content. Now, okay, so paragraphs. But I could also condition individual sentences. So even though this is kind of weird, this lorem ipsum stuff in here, I could highlight and I could go to condition that. Let's say that I just want to do online only for that. Okay, and that you got the shading behind it in that color because I have got my indicator on right here. So I could do sentences. Could also do characters, words and characters. So for example, there's a caution to this though, but look at this sentence. Other information can be found in the rest of this help system. Well, help system makes sense for online output, but maybe I want to say PDF. All right, so I could do that and rest of this help system. So I could click here, get that space before it, and I'm going to use my little shortcut there, online only, and then get the space before this one and go up here and say print only. I could do that. And I could even get down to the character level. For example, if you have the word, trying to think of an example here off the top of my head. I'm just thinking of the article "an" versus a soup bowl versus an elephant. All right, you wouldn't want to do something like this where you had, or even like this, and then you go, all right, so a soup bowl. If I wanted a soup bowl for online, I'm going to say a, and then and is for and print. You can select two of them, and then I would go in and select the rest of this stuff. That can get really weird when you get down to a character level and even the word level, especially if you are translating your output. You send this to a translator, and you're going to drive them nuts because they're going to try to make sense of sentences that don't quite make sense the way they are. So it could be, I'm just going to undo all of this. And it could be that I decide, all right, I do need the variations in here, but I'll just have 2 sentences or 2 paragraphs and maybe something like this. And then I could put my condition on the whole thing like that and like that. That'll help your translator out. I mean, the other way to do it, what I just showed you, will work, but you can get a really difficult topic, difficult content, even for other writers to come in and make sense of what's going on in there. So I know that you want to be single sourcing, you want to reuse the same content, but in some cases, like where you have a little bit of content, it's just better, it's more efficient to just have a copy and conditions on the separate pieces of it. Just use common sense when you're doing this. You want to control your single sourcing. You don't want your single sourcing to control you. You don't want to go do it to the nth degree where you've got a topic that is so hard to read for everybody. All right, so the text, the paragraph, sentences, characters, lists, you can put it on lists or list items. You can see this, the structure bars here. OL that's for the entire thing, the entire set of steps. And if I wanted to put a condition on that, I probably would click the OL tag, select conditions, and choose that. And that'll put it on the entire thing. Or if I wanted it on just a list item, I could right click on the LI tag and do that. Okay. So different parts of lists. Same thing with tables, because tables are made up of different parts. You can just use your structure bars to condition parts, columns or rows in or out of the output. Objects like images, you could just right click on the image and say, I just want this to show up in online only. And so I do this, and the indicator is a little bit different here. Yeah, I get it here, but because this one has a solid background, I'm not going to see my condition behind it. And so what we do is we put this little square so you can see, oh, there's a condition tag on that, and you can hover over it and see what it is. Yeah, so all kinds of content. It's usually selecting or right-clicking or using your structure bars to apply those things. You can also apply conditions to folders and files. And you can see over here on the left, actually I already have one. I've got this folder, and if I expand it, I only have one topic in there right now, but I could have a whole bunch. Let's say I had 10 topics underneath this. Well, because I put this condition on here, right click it, select properties. That's how I get to the conditions for it. And you can see it's print only. So because I have that, it is going to apply the condition to everything under it. So that's a quick way to apply. Instead of applying that separate condition to each one of those 10 files, I could just do it there. Of course, you can apply a condition to individual topics like this. Same thing, right click, properties, go into conditional text conditional text tab right there. And let's just say I want that one. All right. And yeah, so the way that you know that these have conditions on them is because of these little squares. And you got the indicator right there. Turn that on and off. These aren't checkboxes. They look like checkboxes, but they're not. These show where you have conditions set. So you can set it on your content files. You can go to the project organizer. You can also set conditions here on these files. But the thing is, setting conditions on your project organizer files, that's not going to really determine whether this stuff is in or out of the output. There is another reason to have conditions on project files like this. So the one reason to have conditions on content and on your content files here is to keep things in or out of certain outputs. For example, this one has the print only condition. Well, all right, let's say I have a TOC in this front matter, this title. I don't even have that in my online TOC. Isn't that good enough? No, because someone could go in and search the output, and it might come up with this might be a result in here, this topic, and it doesn't make sense in your online output. So you can exclude it from your output by selecting, by putting a condition on it. When it comes to the project organizer, as well as the content explorer, the other reasons why you might want to put conditions on these is for things like global project linking, which I have another video on, and that's where you have like a parent project and then a child project, and you just want to import some files from the parent down into the child project. And a real nice way to do that is by selecting conditions. I do that. And so that is why I have conditions on my project organizer files. But yeah, it's not going to keep them out of the generated output. Just know that. Another reason possibly is if you are using the export project feature, you can go through this wizard and you can actually, I did it right here. I want to export from an entire project and output right here. Oh, I want to use, here it is. I have to remind myself of where these things are, using conditions. So then you can go through this export wizard and this UI comes up and you can say, oh, I want to export only these conditions, but not these other ones. All right. So those are the reasons why you would put conditions on things at the file level. Let's go into my big project and I'll show you kind of what I do in here. You can see, yeah, I've got conditions on, I put conditions on, tons of things, almost everything. And so I have conditions on all of these condition tag sets even, and I'll have it on skins, and sometimes at the file level and sometimes at the folder level. And then in here, I have it organized by product. And so the initial folder has the condition on it. I don't have to put the conditions on anything else. So I make a lot of use of conditions on files. And then of course, I'm applying tons of conditions to my content all over the place, just to control what goes in and out of whatever outputs I'm generating. One thing I would caution you about is if you do put conditions on at the folder level, and then you also put, conditions down lower at the lower level, you need to think through that, because you could have a case where you have conflicting information in your target, where you're telling it to include one condition and not the other, and you're giving it conflicting information. So you might expect something to show up in your output or be excluded from your output, and it's not working. And it could be because you have conflicting settings in here. I know I'm not covering everything, but those are some of the main things where you can set conditions in a Flare project. Almost forgot. One final thing I wanted to mention that you can put conditions on is TOCs. So I want to show you that real quickly. Now, of course, you can apply conditions to an entire TOC, but what I'm talking about are the TOC entries or TOC nodes within them. Now, I have a couple of TOCs here, one that is designed for online, one for print. So I'll open up the online one, and you can see it pretty much follows the folders and files that are in here over on the left in the Content Explorer. Plus, it has a few things in here, FAQs, tips, company, that are here under this reference folder. Now, if I open up the PDF one, you're going to see some similarities, some differences. Now, getting started, more information, features, procedures, pretty much the same thing that you see in there. The PDF TOC, I don't have the things at the bottom. And in the online, I don't have this title page up here, which is just intended for PDF output. That is why that is right here. And that's why it's got a condition on that folder, because I want to keep that out of the output. And it doesn't make sense in the online TOC. So I have two different TOCs here. This is one way that you can do it. Another thing that you could do is you could combine these into one TOC and then put conditions on them. So for example, I could take this title entry, copy it, paste it there. I'm going to move it over, move it up, and then I could, yeah, that's pretty much it. Those are the differences in this one. And then I could right click this and go down to properties, conditional text, and in this case, I want print only on this. Let's see, just need to move that over so I can click OK off of it. And then these three right here, I'm just going to select those and select properties and put online only on those. Click OK. There they are. So it looks something like that. So you can end up with some of these entries with colors next to them if you've got your condition tag indicator on, and some without. And so that's one way that you could single source that. And then of course, right now in my PDF targets, go to the general right here. And right now it's set to use the default TOC, but you could go in here and select. I probably, if I did something like this, I would rename it to just general TOC or something like that. And then I would just point all my targets to that one, as opposed to if I had used separate ones, I would point my PDF target to that, and I would point my online target to the online TOC. So this is really just a preference thing, but it is probably going to work better the fewer differences that you have in the TOC. For example, I have tons of outputs. I have online outputs. I have a ton of PDFs that I create, and it's such a big, if I had one TOC, it would be so big and I would have so many conditions on it, it could become overwhelming and hard to manage. And so that's why I just decided I'm going to separate them out into different TOCs. It's just easier to manage. But if you have a situation where you don't have that many conditions involved, that many differences, then this might be the best way to go. Just wanted to let you know you have this option too when it comes to applying conditions to different things in a Flare project. Now, something that's real important to understand when you're working with conditions in Flare is that it is an inclusive system. And what do I mean by that? Well, I have my PDF target selected here with the conditional text tab, and I created another condition tag set called other, and I've got conditions in here: cool output, gnarly output, more output, weird output, just because I'm strange. And I just want to illustrate something here. Notice if I don't do anything, over on the right, you get the little gray text and things are included by default. It's kind of hard to read the gray text, but if you select it, you can read it. It's just parentheses and the word include. So it is inclusive. If you don't do anything, that stuff is going to be included in the output. Now, if I select just exclude on one of these, again, it remains include for everything else. If I select include on something else, again, these are include. They are inclusive. I'm going to back out of this. Now, the opposite happens if I select only include. These all change to exclude. So the idea is, if it's seen that all you're doing is marking things as include, it's going to assume that you just want the other stuff excluded. As soon as I select exclude in here, that'll change to include. So you just need to understand how this works. Okay, now you might be looking at these other things over here, not set and display by media query. I'm going to talk about display by media query in another section of this video. Not set, what does that mean? Well, that means it's letting Flare do its thing automatically. It's going to supply the setting automatically depending on what you do in here. So if I choose one of these things, it's explicit. Okay. And if I don't select, if I don't set it, it's going to be set. It's going to be not set. Now I can move back if I decide, oh, I changed my mind about this one right here. I can go back, and instead of selecting exclude on that, I can just choose not set, and it goes back to the gray, automatically exclude. So you're just letting Flare do the work for you. That's what not set means. Up next, I want to talk about a little tiny feature that I think a lot of people just don't know about. Because it's just easy to miss. And really, you're going to see it when you have links and put conditions on those links. So it is all about unbinding those links using conditions. All right, so in this topic, let's say that I've got this text right here, and I want to turn it into a hyperlink. And so most of the time I'll use cross-references, especially because I can use that same cross-reference for online and print output. And in online output, it'll just be a simple link. And in print output, it might say the page number. But there are times when I'll create a hyperlink. If I want to control what the text is, I don't want it to automatically supply that. So for example, here, I'm going to create a hyperlink in here to a what's new topic. All right, so I've got my link in here. If I click there, you can see up there the structure bars, turn them on and off right there. And it's an A link. That's my hyperlink. Now, let's say what happened. This is how it came into being years and years ago. This is way early. I was working away, and I had a hyperlink, and I wanted the hyperlink to show up in my online output, but I didn't want it to show up in the print output. I wanted the text, but I just didn't want it to be a link. And so they had to add this new feature so I could do this. So if I just right click, this is another way to, this is another thing you can apply conditions to, links. So I can, if I click there, I can select conditions, but a lot of times I will just use the structure bar, right click there, select conditions, and I want this, let's say online only, and then I click OK. Well, the problem with that is if I were to then build my PDF output, remember earlier in the video series, I set the online to be excluded. So you know what's going to happen here. I'm going to open this up. We'll go to that topic, and it says, make sure you check out, and then there's a space and nothing. So that's not really what I wanted. I still wanted that text. So go back, right click, conditions. Most people go through this really fast. They go, okay, condition tag set, select your thing, okay. Well, there's these little options down here, the exclude action. By default, it's going to be remove. It's the same as all of the other condition settings when you are setting them on content. It's going to remove it if the thing is excluded from the target. But I don't want that. I just want it to simply unbind it. I want the text there, just get rid of that link. And so I select unbind, and it looks exactly the same in the source. But when I rebuild the target, you're going to see what happens. It's going to include the text, but get rid of the link. So check out what is new in this version. If I generate the online output, it's going to be a link. It's going to be just what I set in there. So tiny little option, but can be really useful. Just wanted you to be aware of it. Up until now, we've been talking about conditions in the sense of including or excluding the content from the output, but there is something else you can do. And we saw a little bit of the UI earlier in this video, and that was the setting called display by media query. So web, tablet, and mobile. So we're talking about responsive output here. You can, the HTML5 online output, which is the online output that most people use that we recommend, that is set up to automatically display your design responsively. So the design will look different if it's on a big screen than it does if you're looking at it looking at it on a smartphone. But you can also use conditions to control what content is shown depending on the device or the screen size. So let's go look at how that happens, right? So this again is for HTML5 output. I already have this target open to the conditional text tab. And by the way, if you noticed earlier in the video where I was dealing with the PDF output, and you might have noticed by the icon that I created it and it was actually an HTML5 output. I did catch myself. I changed it here. So it used to be that and it's PDF. Just so you know, I'm aware that I made that mistake earlier, but everything I talked about is still the same. What the points I was making about creating online versus print output. Going back to our online output here. So I get this section right here, display by media query, because if I go into the PDF output, I see it here too, but it doesn't really make sense, the display by media query, because I'm generating PDF output. But it will make sense in an online HTML5 target. And so what is all of this? What is all of this about? So you can create conditions that that are set up for web, tablet, and mobile. In fact, if you add a brand new condition tag set in here, and we will name this one, let's just name it responsive. That's actually what I do in my project. I have a separate condition tag set for responsive conditions, and I call it that. And out of the box, you get these default conditions, and I can delete print only, delete screen only. So I just have mobile, tablet, and web. The idea is I can condition certain content to show only on the web, only on tablet, only on mobile, or a combination of them. Maybe I want some content to show certainly on mobile and tablet, but different on the web. All right, so I've got that other responsive condition tag set in here. And so if I go in here into my target, I can set these things. All right. And now you could set these with any condition, but it makes sense if you create conditions that are set aside specifically for this use. Let's go back and look at some content to see how you can make use of this. So I've got this procedure topic in here. And if I go all the way down to the bottom, you can see I created one line list item that says click save and the others that says tap save, because it make more sense if someone is looking on a large screen, they're going to be clicking. And if they are looking at something on a small screen, might be tapping. So I could condition each of these. So maybe with click save, I'll right click on the LI and go to conditions. And I will go to responsive, and I can select any conditions in here that I want. But let's say for the click save, I want it to be on web, and that's it. And then tap save, I want it to be, oops, wrong thing, snippets. That's next video. We want conditions, and I'm going to do mobile and tablet. When you do select more than one condition, by the way, it's going to combine the colors. So you see that happening here. And the same thing happens over at the file level. The little boxes will combine both colors. So I've done that, but it doesn't mean anything yet because I haven't yet told my target what that should mean. So I go back here. So instead of saying include or exclude, I'm going to go to my mobile, and I'm going to say, I want you to show it, but only when it is the mobile condition is set on something. And I only want you to show the tablet when content when the tablet condition is applied to it. And I only want you to show the web content when the web condition is set to it. All right, so it's going to be smart here. And if I now generate this output, if I did everything correctly, let's generate that online output. And it is procedure 1 we're going to go look at here. So maybe this is something that makes sense for you. Maybe it doesn't. So procedure 1, come down here. So it says click save because this is relatively wide. And the setting that we're talking about here, how does it know? Well, that is all about responsive output. And I got a video on responsive output that you can watch, but it's on the target. You go to the HTML5 target, and I believe you go to the skin here and you scroll down and you can see the breakpoints. If it's large, it's by default, it's going to show things that are a certain width. That's the web size. But if it gets down to 1279 pixels wide, it's going to switch over and show things according to the tablet settings. And mobile is 767. You can, change those if you want, but those defaults work pretty well. So it looks like that. But if I reduce the size of the screen, you can tell it's already not in the web size because I get the navigation on the side is gone and I get this thing. So I already know that it's different. And I go down to the bottom and it says tap save. And then if I go down, this is mobile size, tap save, both of those. Now, another thing, if you want to preview, if you want to see the output for a specific medium, you can do what I just did there. You can resize the browser window, but you can also click the output down here in the builds window and select view output. And I could select smartphone and it will show it here. So you get a different sense of how it is, and tap save. And then the same thing, I can go to tablet. So it's bigger. It looks like a tablet. It's just doing the same thing. It's just a snazzier kind of view here. Tap save. And we already saw the big web size on the browser. Now, tap, click. So there was some simple content. Here's something else that you could do. Something a little bit more complex. I'm going to go to this topic, and I've got a table in here, 3 columns, and a few rows in here. And if you generate this, well, that'll look fine on a big screen, maybe even a tablet screen, but on a mobile screen, it's going to be narrow. And so you might want to have these things more vertical. So what I did here was I actually created 2 different tables, one here and one down below it, where I've got these headings and then the rows, the basic content under that, and then other stuff and data. And so this is one table, and you might be looking at this going, okay, you got a head here. How did you do these? That's another subject that has to do with table styles, which I've got a video on. What I actually did, if I go look at, let's go look at just so I can give you a heads up here. Let's edit the table style. What I did was I went into the table style sheet in rows and I created a custom row. And if I select it, you can see the background color is that. And then I've got some styling that I used so that the text in it just shows up as white and bold and centered. Now, this might look, at first glance, you're thinking, well, that's extra work. You have 2 tables instead of 1. Yeah, that's true. And you may not want to do this, but I also used snippets, and you can tell there's snippets in here. This text, it's got these brackets, these markers around it, because I have markers turned on. If I turn them off, you don't see it. It just looks like regular text, but those are actually snippets. So it's the same text here as it is down here. I'm controlling it in one place. So I am single sourcing, but I do have 2 tables because I want to make this work with my responsive conditions. Now, you might have another solution for, having tables display one way on a large screen, another way on a narrow screen, but this is one solution you can use. So what I'm going to do is go over here to the table structure bar. Again, you can set conditions on tables, any of these levels in here. You could put conditions on them. I want to go out to the widest one, the table structure bar, and I'm going to select conditions. And then I go to my responsive condition tag set. And I know that that'll look good on the web size. Do I think it'll look good on the tablet size? Okay. Let's say that I do. So it's going to combine those. And then down here, I've got this, one column table, and I am going to select conditions. And this time I'm going to select mobile. So let us see what happens now when I generate this HTML5 output. Go to that topic and the content's the same. It's just, is it easier to see on a small screen? So this is our large screen, and we will go to, let's see, it was more information. There it is. There's that table. Looks pretty good. I only have one table in here. Same topic. Reduce the size. Get down. This is tablet size. All right, one table. Now I'm going to go down to mobile sizing. You'll know it's mobile size the second I go from 3 columns to 1 column. And so somebody's looking at this on a smartphone, much easier to read. That is what responsive conditions can do for you. When you're in the target and you are deciding what conditions are going to be included or excluded, you are using by default, you're using the basic method, which is all or statements. So you would say, include this condition or this condition or this condition. But you have another option. If you want to get more advanced, you can write more complex statements. So in addition to or, you can also do and statements, and you can do and not statements, and you can put things in parentheses. So let's work through these so you can see what you can do with advanced conditions and some of the cautions about using it. All right, so I have this topic open, feature 1, and I have several one-sentence paragraphs in here, each one conditioned with something else. And you've already seen me create a bunch of conditions in this project. So I've got print only, online only, there's PDF1, PDF2, and I have put these conditions according to what I've written in the text. So this one has a print only condition on it. This one has online only. This one is PDF1 and so on. And then these down here are combinations, print only and online only, PDF2 and online only. And then this has basically all 4 of them down here. So first of all, let's go to this HTML5 target in here and the conditional text tab. And I have it set so I'm looking at all the tags at once. I just want a real good bird's eye view of everything instead of just going into a specific condition tag set. And in this example, I have set the online only to include and the print only to include, and I haven't selected anything else. Everything else is on the not set setting. And so it is by default just excluding everything else. So let's build the output and see what we get looking at that topic. So it's going to build and it should go pretty quick here. And this, I just used the basic method. So I haven't yet switched to the advanced method. And we'll open this thing up and let's go to that topic. So I told it to include print only or online only. If I've got something marked and it's got either one of those conditions, it's going to show up in here. So it showed all of these sentences because it has one or the other, or in this case, both of them. Now we want to create, I'm going to close this to get a little bit more space here. I am going to actually make a copy of that target, and I'm going to do an and statement instead. So I'm going to do that, and we'll just rename this and. All right, let's open that thing up. Close this one. And if you look down here, basic is selected. So it's exact copy of what I just had, but I don't want to use an or statement. I want to use an and statement. So I'm going to click advanced. And what happens is it just clears this space out down here. And not only that, but the options go away because I'm in advanced mode. Now, one thing that I can do to make things easier, because I already have some things set, I can come down here all the way down to the bottom and say copy from basic. And it'll put those same things that I had in here from before. So include the online only or print only. And general is the name of the condition tag set. So it's all written just the way it should be for me. Now, what I can do is instead of or, I can type and. And if you start typing something and it's wrong, I could come over here outside of the brackets and just start typing nonsense, and it tells you you've done something wrong. So that's pretty nice. Now, I'm telling it instead, I'm going to save this, and it's telling me I'm in advanced mode, and the data from the basic expression will be lost. Okay. And I'm saying, okay, I understand. What that means is if I don't go back and forth, what you want to do is if you have some basic settings, you want to leverage that, okay, fine, then switch over to advanced, click copy from basic, do your thing. But then don't go back to basic because you're just going to lose your work. So just work in one or the other here from this point. All right, so I have include online only and print only. So that's different from what I had before. So I'm going to go ahead and build. I'm saying, show me content that has both of these in them. So let's open this up, bring this over, go back to this. So these two lines had both conditions in them, in addition to others. So that's why I'm seeing that. Let's do another example. I'm going to make a copy of this one now. And what we're going to do is we're going to do an expression that has and not. So and not in here. Okay. And I'm going to close this. Let's go open up our new one. And it is an exact copy of this. So I'm already in advanced mode down here. So I have include online only and print only. And then I'm just going to click in here and I'm going to say, and not space. Now I need to add, I'm going to add another condition in here. I'm going to add the PDF1. I could just type it in here, but a real nice shortcut is to just go up here, find it, and double click it, and it adds it in there for me. All right, so I have my expression. I will save it, and I will build. So it is going to look for online. It's going to display content that has online only and print only, and not the PDF1 in it. So let's open that. Back in here. All right, so we have just this one. This is the only one that makes sense because that other line of text, it had print only and online only, and it had PDF1, PDF2, and that didn't meet the requirements, and so it left that out. Let's do just one more in here, and we are going to add a parentheses and in case statement in there. So I am going to just make one more copy of this, and this time I am going to name this one and just the opposite of this, not and. And this might take a little bit of thought to really get it straight in your head, because you just saw this text, this content for the first time, and you might need to think on it a little bit for it to really settle in and make sense. So here's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to include general, online only, and not. Now I'm going to do a parentheses, and not my print only, and I'm going to do PDF 2. So there we go. So that's all right, like that. Now let's go look back at our topic and see what we expect to see in the results. And what I'm going to do is I am going to actually, I'm going to get rid of this one right here. And so with my statement in here, some of these are pretty easy to see that, print only is not going to be included. This one should be included, the online only. These two shouldn't. This one should. I got PDF 2 and online only. And this one right in here, it has, I said, and not if it's got print only and PDF 2. So this has print only and PDF 2, so it shouldn't show up. And I know this takes a little bit of mental gymnastics to get it straight in your head, but that, with more experience, it'll make more sense. So I'm going to build this. And so I should just get 2 of these in the output. So let's open this thing up and drag the output over. And feature 1, and there it is. So it's just a more complex expression in there, but that is what you can do with advanced conditions in Flare. Now, earlier in this video, I showed applying conditions to different content. And so that is a very common thing to do, but a lot of people like to put conditions on styles and then apply the styles to that content, and it just takes on the conditions. So let's look at that. That might be something that you prefer. All right, so in this topic, I got this paragraph up here. Let's say I want to apply a condition to it. Well, I could just do that, or I could go and open up my style sheet. Let's see, right here. And I'm in the advanced view, which is it's not that advanced. It's not that hard to use. And so what I'm going to do is create a brand new selector. I'm going to create a generic class, empty this field right there, and then I'm going to give this a name. So I would just name it after what kind of condition or conditions you want to associate with this. So we already have that online only one, and I'm just going to give it that name, spell it like that. Click OK. So it's a generic style class. So if I look over on the left and I'm showing all my styles, I can expand generic classes, and there it is, online only. Now I need to apply this property, the special MadCap property to it, and it's called MC, I believe, MC conditions. So the way that I have my filters set right now is I have it set to show styles that are already set. Well, this is a brand new style class. I don't have anything set. If you want to go see all your properties, then they're just listed. And if they're listed in alphabetical order, then you just go down till you find MC conditions in here, right there. Or if you want to look at it in grouped view, I think it is under unclassified MC conditions right there. So what you do is just click on that and you get this dialog, which should look familiar. It's got all your conditions in here and condition tag sets, and I just want to associate that one. I could associate multiple conditions with this, but I'm just going to do that one, click OK. And so now if I go back here, this paragraph right here has an online condition, online only condition. I said it earlier in this video, and I'm just going to do this a different way. I'm just going to click right on the paragraph. Don't have to select the paragraph, just click on it. And I'm going to go to my home ribbon, the style drop down, and these things are in alphabetical order. So when you have a generic class, it starts with a dot. And so these are going to be up at the top. And so online only, and there it is. So it's just an alternative way to apply your conditions, to set them. So maybe you prefer that, maybe you prefer the other method. Doesn't matter, they both work. I'm going to show you something now that's really cool. It's been around for ages, but a lot of people just don't know that it exists. So you have MadCap Flare. Now, if you also have MadCap Capture, MadCap Mimic, these things can integrate with each other so that you are leveraging the conditions that you set in your Flare project. So, for example, you can create callouts in both Capture and Mimic, and then you can apply those conditions and they just carry over. And the trick is the image, for example, if you're working with Capture, that image needs to be in the Flare project where the conditions are set, and then it just kind of is automatically available. Let's go in, take a look, and see how you might use this. Got an image in here in this set of steps, just pretty generic looking image. And let's say I wanted to add a call out to it. So I'm going to right click on it and select Edit with MadCap Capture. That just launches MadCap Capture and it opens up that image in here. And I have some customized callouts over here. I'm just going to double click this one and enter some text in here, move that around. And I'll just say this is my online callout. All right. And then I'll make a copy of that and paste it, move this other one down here, and you'll have to figure out your use for this, how this could be useful to you, but there are all kinds of possibilities. I'm just giving you a real simple example here just to demonstrate the power of this. So I'm going to call that one my print callout. Now, if I right click on one of these and select properties, there it goes, go down to conditions, and you can see these are the same conditions that I have in my Flare project that I created. And so I'm going to select online for that one. And you get the little indicator there, the blue square. And then I'll do the same here, except I'm going to select print. All right. And we'll just save that. And because these are tightly integrated, as soon as I saved it, it just updated this topic in here, the image in the topic. There isn't really anything else I need to do. And I already have, I believe, if I go look at my targets in here, my online target should be including my online only and excluding print only. And then let me go look at one of my PDFs in here. And that should have online excluded and print included. So let's build these two things and we'll open them up and look at that image. Okay, so the online one is done. Open that up, move this thing over here. That was in procedure one, come down. There's my online call out, left the other one behind. And then the PDF should just be the opposite of that deal. So come down to procedure one, and there's my print callout. So pretty snazzy, unless you just happen to hear about it or have been around a long time, you just very well may not even know about that, but it's another one of those things that you can do with conditions. What I want to do next is just kind of go through some other features in MadCap Flare that have a relationship with conditions where you can use them. All right, first off, I want to talk about global project linking. And I kind of mentioned this before because I said, hey, the files and folders here in the project organizer, it's not good for including or excluding things from output, but it is useful for other things like global project linking. And so that is one reason why you would set conditions there. And it also works when you set conditions, in here in the Content Explorer. So global project linking, I have a whole video on that. If you want to know more about that, really what it is you got a parent project and a child project. And the child project, you want to just import some files from the parent project. You don't want to have to recreate them, copy and paste. You should never do that. You just want to leverage them. And so what you do is you set conditions on the folders or files in the parent project, and then you create an import file. And so from the project organizer, I will just right click that and select add Flare project import file. And we can name it anything we want. And I'll just click add, and it looks like this. And so what you do is you use this field up here to point to, let's say that this is the child project actually that I have open. This is where you would create the import file. And so there's another project out there where I want to import from. And so I would use this field here at the top, just go click browse and go find it. And it's in there. And then you have all these other fields that determine what happens when, how files are imported, what happens. And you have some options in here as far as how to indicate what files you want to import. And you can use these fields right here, but I really like to use this one down here, the import conditions. And so I'll click, oops, I haven't selected a project yet. That's why it didn't let me do that. But if I did, if I selected a project, I would click that, and then you just go and you'd select your conditions that you want to bring in and leave the others out. And then you would import, and that's how it would decide what files to bring in. I'm not going to go through all the steps. I just want to mention it, and because I cover it in detail in this other video, so go check that out. So that is one feature, global project linking. Another feature you can use is when you're sending files for review and you want to only include certain content that is conditioned and leave other content out of the review. You can do this if you're sending reviews through MadCap Contributor as opposed to MadCap Central. So for example, this right here, this topic, I've got some online and print conditions in here, and I could go to review and send for review. And there it is, my file. And I come down here, send a review package file. That's the contributor option as opposed to central. And then down here, you can open it with condition expressions. So I might want them to only be looking at things that have the online conditions applied to it, none of the others. And so as soon as I select include for online, everything else is excluded in that, and click OK. And then I would just go through the rest of the wizard, send it off. So that is another option that you've got. The next thing I want to mention is the project exporting feature. And I actually kind of showed this earlier. You want to export a project. You've got conditions set on files, folders, go to the project ribbon, export project, come down, and you want to, from here, you fill out this information if necessary. And then you select using conditions, and you go next and next. And now you can choose which conditioned content you want to include and what to exclude. So again, you're seeing the same UI. It's very similar as just another use for conditions. Up next is micro content. And if you don't know what micro content is, it is extremely cool. Let's go look in the Flare help. I am going to search for associate conditions. I could be looking for any piece of information, but we're talking about conditions. Might as well look at this. And I've got a couple of pieces of micro content that show up in the output. This right here, this video, and this set of steps right here. So people don't have to go looking, it's just right there. But notice this set of steps in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, got a paragraph in there, got an animated GIF that's moving around down there. And if I go to the full topic, it's this same topic, it's just repurposed, reused. And I have the same paragraph in here and I've got the same steps, but I have additional sub steps in my full topic. And so what happened was when I created this, I just, I put conditions on these. And when I created the micro content, I single sourced the micro content. So I told it, hey, in the online output, I want you to show everything. And in the micro content, the smaller piece in the search results, I only want you to show certain parts. Now, actually, I did it with styles, but conditions are another way that you can do this. And I don't want to go into a whole bunch of detail because we'll go down this rabbit hole. And it's much better for you to check out this video, this other video, because I go through that in detail. So if you are really interested in micro content and really interested in using conditions or single sourcing to reuse it, check that out. Now, a couple of other options that you have with conditions that has to do with when you're editing content. And one of them is you can tell Flare, hey, there's too much clutter in here with all the conditions and everything. I'm maybe you're writing this topic and you're only thinking about online output right now, and you want to hide the print output as you're editing. So you can come up here and click this little button, and you can then just go in again, the same thing. You include that, and everything else is excluded. Or I could include multiple and exclude some, and click OK. And now I'm editing, and I don't see, I see the online conditions, but not the print one, nothing else in this. This lets you know, this message, hey, some content you're not seeing that's really there, but it's because you have this thing set up here. So that could be really useful to you if you're working on content where you have lots of conditions. Oops, I want to, yeah, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to change that to not set and go back to where I was. So that is associating the conditions while you're editing. And then there's also the preview feature. And so the preview is right here. And you can also use the drop down. It identifies, oh, these are all your targets in here. And I could choose a specific one, or I could just click that, and that should be the primary target. And it shows up, and it already has the conditions included and excluded for that. There's that online call out. So there's proof of it. So you see how it looks with that target and those conditions set on it. You can also just go in here and change the conditions. You're not changing the conditions on the target or anything. You're just seeing, hey, what would happen if I change this to include or change that to exclude? So that's how it looks with the online one. And then you could go and you could look at PDF one, and you would see that preview with those conditions applied. And then the final thing I want to mention is that there are some reports that have to do with conditions that you can use. So go to the analysis ribbon. If you go to undefined items, you can look at undefined condition tags. You might have a problem. This can happen, for example, if something can get messed up. Maybe if you change the name of the condition tag set and you didn't update the links, and so things are those conditions, Flare doesn't know what to do with them because it can't find them. So they're undefined. Or you can use this report to look at all the used conditions in your project. Or you can look at files with snippet conditions, which is the next video in, or it's coming up in this series later on, that video. So those are several things, other features that you can use that have to do with conditions. As you can see, it's very versatile. There's a whole lot you can do. And that's going to do it for this video on conditions, a whole bunch of stuff in there. Hopefully you found something that really is going to help you enhance your Flare project. So thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video in this series.